Hey guys, today we're looking at how to do fresh on raw graffiti. So this is roller fill graffiti. And this chapter comes from my online course. So you can check the link somewhere in this video for how to see the rest of that. Otherwise, let's get into it. Okay, so this chapter is roller fill, and the example I'm going to give is on raw wall, and we'll look at the differences in a second, but I'll just mention that I did this other piece. I already tried this piece before on this same wall, and I did it again because I thought it was a failure. Like, I look at these color schemes and it's too similar to the surrounds, like these browns and these dark chocolates and the green outline. It's too similar to the grass over the head and the sort of color of the wall. So it doesn't pop like I wanted it to. And then the other thing is I used gray roller instead of white roller as a base. And I also didn't like the outline. So it's not a very funky outline. So that was a failed attempt. And it was a little better with the second try, which is what we're looking at now. So roller fill is basically what it says it is. You do the fill with roller paint. So I've done the SketchUp, and you can see I've got my roller. This is a smaller roller than you would normally use. So if you're like buffing a wall to do a piece, I use a bigger roller. And the other thing is that I was just going to mention before was that when you're doing roller fill on a wall that isn't raw, it's much easier because you've already got a base. You've already got a sort of working point. Whereas with this, with roller on raw, you really got to work it like it really soaks it up. Like this paint that I'm putting on now really soaks it up. Like it's really thick, it dries really fast, and you really have to push it, and it's really physical to sort of get it on. So it's almost like, I guess we call it slogging a wall or wrestling with a wall. And the idea with fresh on raw is to make it look like it's been photoshopped. We want it to pop off the wall so much that it looks like a kind of sticker, like someone has just sort of copied and pasted from another photo sort of thing. So that's what we're going for, that's what we're looking for, and that's going to dictate the sort of colors that we use, the sort of shapes that we use, and also the order in which we do this. So far this is still very much basic, just outline and then fill in only. So there's no 3D, no background, no keyline, no nothing at the moment. It's just trying to get that right. And white is probably the best color for this. If you're really going to do this right, you want to do white, because that's going to give it the most shine, the most pop, and the most sort of bang for your buck when you go to do something with the rest of the piece. And it really was a slog to get all that paint. I think it probably used about half a bucket of paint just to get that sort of fill like that. So you see at this stage there's no 3D, and I sort of forgot. I sort of thought, what am I going to do with the 3D? And I realized to get the most pop, I'm going to have to do a white base no matter what color I do the 3D in the outline. So I go through now and I do the drop shadow, and that actually turned out to be an advantage because it had dried a bit, because the fill had dried a bit, I could see where the drop shadow was. I could see the edge of the outline. Whereas if I had done the fill and the drop shadow roller at the same time, I wouldn't have had that edge. It wouldn't have been so clear. So that was one advantage of doing just the fill in, waiting a bit until it dries, and then doing the drop shadow. And you can see here, I'm still adding like more paint to this to try and get it more solid. It really took so much paint. Normally when you're doing roller fill, it's like a budget piece. So you can do like an eighth of a can. An eighth of a tin of roller paint will be your fill, and then you might use like 1 tin for outline, and then like a third of a tin for background, and then you've done a piece with only like 2 cans. So very cheap, very budget. So now I'm sort of adding something to the fill, and I've chosen this color, this nice sort of orange, to sort of be a bit more different to the surrounding environment, so it pops more. And I'm just fading it up from the bottom so that it's doing something for the fill. I'm also thinking about the outline in 3D at this stage. I want to be making sure that's accurate and easy to follow later on. And a bit of purple for the top. So I could have done colors on all of the fill in. I could have brought the purple down and the orange up even more, but I decided to keep some of the white. And if I would have added more colors, I would have kept them very light. It would have been like a yellow or a lighter orange or a lavender or something like that. Something very light, not a mid-tone. Not like a blue or a red or anything like that. And I do fade it back a bit. I don't know if it was really necessary to fade the white back again, but you can't really stop me trying to clean things up. So now this is the key line. And you'll notice that normally we do the key line last. We normally do it after the outline is done. But on this, we're doing it beforehand because the outline has to be the thing that is on top. And also, normally the key line is a bright color, like a white or a yellow, or a pistachio, or a snot, something like that, a lime green sort of thing. But here it's black because the background is sort of black, it's dark. We're doing light on dark. So this black skinny line goes round the entire outside and really is meant to be the thing that makes it pop. And basically, black is the only thing that's going to work on this wall without roller fill behind it. So any other color that you put directly onto this wall is basically going to get lost. It's basically going to be too grainy. It's not going to be solid. It's not going to have that power. It's not going to have that freshness. So if I wanted to do something that was more bright in the background, I would have to roll the entire wall with a really thick roll and then do something else. And then that wouldn't be fresh on raw, that would just be a roller fill piece, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But as I said before, we're really going for the fresh on raw pop look. And I do fade a little bit. There's not technically any background to this. I mean, I put some black in there a little bit. There's also some more behind the E. It's more like a shadow than a background. And really, if you're doing roller fill on raw, you want to leave the background out. So this is outline and 3D, and it's just the one color. And what I'm doing here is I'm following right between the roller fill and that black key line. I'm trying to be as accurate as I can with that difference. Because if I go over the black with this pink, it's just going to become grainy. It's not going to become fresh. I have to stick to where the white roller is. And pink was the color of choice just because it's contrasting. There's no real pink in the grass or the creek nearby. It also does complement the top orange quite nicely. There is also quite a nice ambience to this spot. I do sometimes wonder how sound affects the piece. I mean, there are birds and planes going over and different insects making noises at various times. But trying to get that outline exact is really important. It can get a bit tricky to realize or to remember where you've been, which is why it was such an advantage to have the roller of the 3D done at a different time as the roller of the fill. And just about here, I'm sort of thinking really hard about how the 3D works because it's not exactly clear. And I really just have to stop and take my time because that edge is lost in that doodad. So there's 3 apostrophes on this piece and one sort of doodad square thing at the top. And those are placed just to fill the space between the letters. So that is one sort of solution to the problem of letter spacing. But they're not entirely unrelated, like that middle doodad, that middle apostrophe that I'm doing now. You see how it sort of points towards that tip of the E? So it's still related, there's still swing and there's still connections. And I don't know how I don't know how the 3D actually turned out on that middle apostrophe. It's probably still wrong, but seems to be doing all right. And then the last little bit here is just putting on the date and dropping a crew name. It is the sort of spot where the piece will last, so it's good to put a date on it. And I've always found it's a pretty good habit to put a year on the piece, because even if it doesn't last long, the year is going to be in the photo that you take. So if you take a photo, it's not always obvious which year it was, but if you write it on there, then at least it's clear. So that's a piece. That is roller fill on raw. I wonder how it pops. It looks like it pops pretty good, so it's definitely better than the first time I tried this. Hey guys, thanks for checking out this video. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed it. If you'd like to see the rest of the course, you can enroll. Just follow the link, and there's also a promotional video there which will give you some more info about the things that you'll learn. Otherwise, this has just been one chapter out of many chapters which we talk about in the course. And there's all sorts of styles, all sorts of processes. So check it out, and thanks again.